Sometimes it can be challenging to talk to children about Alzheimer's because they become confused, they become anxious, they don't really understand what it is or what to expect.
There are challenges associated with telling children that a family member has Alzheimer's. How you go about that depends on the age of the child. So preschoolers need to be told as simply as possible what's happening and what to expect. So you can say something like, Grandma may have behaviors that are unusual, but she still loves you. For teenagers, because they know that something's going on, they may understand the words, and they may be too frightened to talk about it or too scared. Am I going to be this way? Is my mother going to be this way? So with teenagers, you really need to keep that part of the conversation open as much as possible.
The best way to approach the topic of Alzheimer's with children is to just talk with them on a basic level about what to expect in the early stages, in the latter stages. Step by step, as disease progresses, it's always good to explain that to the children in a basic way that they can understand, and of course answer their questions.
It would come up when family was together with Nanny here at Abe's. And so as things were either mentioned frequently over and over again, or there might be a funny moment, they'd ask later and we'd talk about what was going on and where confusion might have come into the conversation, or did they notice something. We really just tried to make sure that they focused on this is the same Nanny, but Nanny has a disease that's going to affect the way she thinks and talks, and that it's okay, it's all part of life, and this is her journey that she's on now. And really focused on their comfort and her evolving situation.
It was pretty hard to hear for the first time. My dad told me about 5 years ago. It was okay because my dad and mom did a pretty good job about explaining it to me, and at the time she was still pretty communicative and seemed normal. So it was really over time what I learned what Alzheimer's really is.
When my parents initially told me, I was shocked, just kind of, because I've known my grandmother as a person who's always energetic and likes to have conversations, and then I realized that it probably was not going to be that way for much longer.
And yeah, we read about Alzheimer's and we've talked about it, but it's knowing how and when to ask the questions that have really been a great source of learning for the kids. I think that's where their biggest learning has occurred. How do you ask the question in a way where it doesn't cause more confusion or doesn't expose that she really doesn't remember what she did this morning? And learning about how to get to the right question, which is, how are you now?
There's a book called Why Did Grandma Put Her Underwear in the Refrigerator, which is a wonderful book to explain to younger children about Alzheimer's, really even through the preteen level, to explain basically what Alzheimer's is and what to expect.
The book is great because it gives the kids a chance to see that they're not the only ones questioning what's going on. This is probably happening to lots of families and their kids and grandparents who are experiencing these things, and making it comfortable, making it real, as opposed to awkward and stiff. That book helps with that process.
I think the book, Why Did My Grandmother Put Her Underwear in the Refrigerator, is pretty helpful if you don't really understand what Alzheimer's is. I think the way the book puts it forward is a decent example about what the progression of Alzheimer's is, because at the beginning of the book, everything is, they're best friends, everything's normal, and then progressively as the book goes on, her grandmother gets a lot worse and she really understands more about the disease.
Some of the advice I would give family members when talking with their children about dementia is to encourage the children to do what they normally do with their family member that has dementia. For example, if they're used to going on walks with grandma, take long walks, look at the leaves, talk about things maybe that grandma did when she was growing up around her neighborhood. So continue to encourage your children to be a part of grandma's life, not seclude from, to be afraid of, because it's important to keep those connections.
My advice would just be enjoy every minute, and especially right when you find out, make sure you put in time to go and spend time with your grandmother. And even if you're going to have plans with your friends, just understand that in a couple years, it won't be like it anymore where you guys can have a conversation back and forth. So it's important to spend as much time with her as possible while everything is going pretty well.
For kids that are just finding out about their grandparents' Alzheimer's, I would say love on them a lot, visit them as much as you can, give them a lot of hugs, tell them about your day, ask how their day was, and just kind of do that a lot as much as you can.
In terms of the lessons learned in this journey, in this experience, being open and understanding that life is changing, and that for somebody with Alzheimer's, they're not always in control. In fact, they're not in control. And so figuring out how to have a family that recognizes that and is comfortable with that to the best of their abilities is the goal.